Hi everyone, my name is Dr. Elizabeth Robledo. I'm an acupuncturist and the Director of Alumni and Constituent Relations at SCU. I'm super excited to have one of our 2015 alumnus from LACC, Dr. Jonathan Leary. Hi, Dr. Jonathan Leary.
Hello.
Thank you so much for taking the time today to join me in this interview. I'm really excited to, talk about your trajectory right after you graduated and kind of hear about all the things that you have going on. So for everyone that doesn't know about Dr. Leary is a chiropractor in West Hollywood. He recently opened up a super awesome practice called Remedy Place. It is the world's first social wellness club. And we just want to hear all about how everything's been since graduation. So if you could just give us a little information.
My mom and my sister are both nurses. I knew from a very early age, I was like, I want to be a doctor. Volunteered in hospitals in high school, went through pre-med, thought I was going to go the traditional medical route. And then just working in the hospital setting for so long, it was so discouraging because I just saw, people were sick. It was short interactions with patients. You didn't really know your patients. And I just think I saw too many things that were morally and ethically wrong. And it didn't really sit well with me. And I was like, okay, now I just took my MCATs, applying to med schools, and I'm like, maybe I don't want to do this. So I had a little bit of a panic attack of like, wait, I just worked so hard to get here. One of my friends was like, hey, have you ever thought of chiropractic? And at that time, I never saw a chiropractor. But he's like, my friend's dad in California is a chiropractor, and their scope of practice is almost the same as a primary care physician. They just don't prescribe drugs and they don't do surgery. So I was like, oh, okay, I think I could do that. So I, out on a whim, ended up applying to SCU. Not sure if there was something that I wanted to do, but just as like a backup of like a possibility. I also had a background in nutrition, and I was a personal trainer. But my personal training was more taking people from physical therapy and reintroducing them back into the gym. So it was like a really cool niche that was a big hit, and I really learned so much during that time period. But then I was going to take a year off, and actually the school reached out, and I ended up talking to one of the advisors, and they were like, hey, we accepted you. Are you going to come? And I was like, I don't know. I need to think about it. And I actually, to be completely honest, a month later, I was like, you know what? I want to move to California anyways. Why don't I try this for a year, see what happens? I knew I was going to take a year off from going to med school anyways. And then I fell into it. And I was like, okay, got adjusted for the first time, started school, started learning about all these things. I mean, in my small town in Rhode Island, there really isn't anything holistic. It's just, conventional medicine. So I was exposed to things I've never heard about. At first, when I moved to LA and everyone's talking about energy and all of these things, I was like, these people are crazy. But then, you slowly start learning and feeling and discovering all of this whole other side. And then from there, I was like, okay, I'm going to go with this, and went through some things through school. I was like, maybe this isn't the right thing. Should I be dropping out and going back to med school? Or I don't know. I constantly went back and forth because the first 2 years, you still don't really know the basic sciences, and, there's some hands-on, but I was only 22 years old and really unsure. But no matter what, I knew I wanted to get into sports medicine. So I was like, all right, I'm going to work on my business plan. And I started throughout all of school, and we can touch on that later. I'm not sure if you're going to have questions on that, but worked on my business plan throughout the 3.5 years of the program. But it was really going into my last year that I was like, you know what, chiropractic works. There's a lot of amazing things that go hand in hand. I can use the scope to do the nutrition, the personal training side, and other things that I felt really confident in and that I knew worked. And then when I graduated, I knew that I definitely wanted to start my own thing. So the last 2 trimesters, I actually started a concierge personal training company that focused on people leaving physical therapy again, but here. Took on some clients, built up that while doing my rotations. And then when I graduated, I started I transitioned that company to my practice, just added in all the services.
Wow. So you started your business plan 3 years before you graduated?
Correct. Yeah.
How was that?
And that business plan was Remedy Place. So the company that I just opened in January was this huge idea. of everything that I want. How when I graduated, you know, I didn't come from any money, and I had like $2,000 in the bank when I graduated. And I went to the bank. I'm like, I have this amazing business plan. This is what I want to do. And they're like, you have $2,000 in the bank and you have $200,000 in student loan debt. They're like, that's not how a loan works. So completely naive of what it took to actually get a business loan. And then that's why I actually just transitioned that Concierge personal training company into my Concierge practice. And then I used that time, this whole entire time, working on it continuously. I mean, so it's really been like 6 or 7 years that I worked in that business plan.
Wow. That's pretty awesome, because, you know, at school you only get, you know, a couple of classes for business building. And then after that, you kind of have to, you know, look at things on your own. Would there be any advice that you have for students that are looking to open up a private practice?
100%. I mean, first off, all of my friends, if you ask any of them, they used to make fun of me so much because every Sunday I would spend 4 or 5 hours every single Sunday just working on the business plan. And they're like, John, it's 3 years away. What are you doing? Like, because everyone would take like a Sunday or Saturday off from studying. And I was also tutoring 20 hours a week and seeing some clients for the personal training. So I was working a lot. But at the end of the day, it's like, if you want to start a company, half of the company, like, yes, giving back and being hands-on and being a great doctor is vital. Like, people need to love you. You need to be good at what you do, but you still need to have a business, you know, like you can't just be like, all right, I'm this amazing doctor and then not know how to run a business. And everything from, sorry, there's a light that keeps shining in, everything from as simple as like a logo to a website to your offerings and like the flow of the company and how you'd market yourself and how to build your own brand. It's like, how are you marketing yourself now through social media, through videos? It takes a long time. And I had zero money. So I was like, okay, like a logo. All right, how do I create a logo? A website. How do I build my own website? And then just each and every aspect of like learning what it takes to own a business and then learning how to do it yourself. I think that was the best gift that I could have given myself. Because like you said, in school, you don't really have classes on that. So it's going to take you 2 or 3 times longer unless you have the money to hire somebody to help you with those things, which I feel like maybe most people don't really have that extra help. And it just takes a lot of work. So the biggest advice I can say is start as early as you can. It's never too early. Business plans need to be worked on. And then even when you're done, they need to be changed and updated and progress to be better and better and better. So after the first year of really working on it, it was really just more fine tuning. And it's like, all right, how do you make from the experience better to the offerings to what am I doing to market myself? What am I doing to like build my own name? So it's, yeah, if you want to open up your business, start early, be prepared to sacrifice a lot of your personal time. Because it is, if you want to be super successful, as long as you're willing to like really work hard and you're passionate about it, there's no way you can't be successful. It's easy to be lazy. And it's definitely, you know, when you see like all your friends going out, all these things going on, you get distracted, and it's okay to let loose and do that. But if you look at any major success story from like Apple to Elon Musk, like you have to sacrifice your life a little bit to get things going. And that's what my whole 20s was. You know, I've been working over 100 hours a week and I sacrificed a lot, but I had a lot of fun along the way. But there's no way that I would ever have accomplished where I'm at now if I was, you know, taking it easier, enjoying life a little bit more.
So you are off of Sunset, right?
Yeah.
Did you initially envision Remedy Place and that location? Like,
absolutely not. I mean, I don't know if I said this earlier before, but I grew up in Rhode Island, the smallest state. I mean, to think that I would ever have a place on Sunset Boulevard in the middle of West Hollywood, right in the middle of everything. It was a dream, but never something that I thought was going to happen by the time I was 30, or even with the first Remedy Place. But having my practice before this definitely helped inspire me and always think bigger. And I think you really can do anything that you set your mind to. Just dream big and don't let anyone tell you that that's not possible. And I know it's such a cliche, but seriously, like I always had these huge dreams, and some of them I thought were going to take a lot longer, but I can honestly say that every dream that I had set by the end of school, I've been able to accomplish already. So it's a lot of replanning and restructuring, and you could self-growth, and with business and like even individually is so important, and you can always push the boundaries, and there's no limitation on where you can go. So you really do want to manifest it. You want to set those dreams and set those goals, and like, what is the call to action? What is the plan? Because it is so freaking powerful when you really can visualize and like have something to work towards.
So you graduated in 2015, and
Correct.
We're in 2020 right now. Can you give us all the information that happened in that 5-year period that got you to where you're at now?
Yeah. So Concierge personal training company to my practice. So I had 4 clients, doing rotations and being a tutor and classes. I didn't have too much time, but I saw them each like 2 to 3 times a week. They all transitioned over to patients. There's a company called ClassPass. I'm not sure if you're familiar with ClassPass. ClassPass approached me because they wanted a physician's review on biomechanics and safety of their top gyms in LA. So I went in, took 30 different workout classes and wrote a review, and they wanted to know like the pros and cons of each one. But instead I was like, I'm not saying anything bad about these gym owners. Like, how is that going to build a healthy relationship? So I flipped it, and they never published it, but I just said, who is the best clientele for each workout, And with doing that, I met the gym owner, like all these different gym owners across LA, one of which I became really, really close with. And my first week of actually having my license and being in practice, that gym owner introduced me to 2 patients. One was a professional polo player that pulled out his back before the World Cup in Austria and wasn't supposed to play. I had to go to his house and carry him out of bed. It was his first big game. I had him playing within 7 days, and they won, and it was this huge success story. And then the other patient got in a motorcycle accident and broke every bone on his body. Full hospital staff in his house, hooked up to machines. I walked in because this was the first patient I took on, and I was like, oh wow, can I actually do this? And I remember leaving like, should I take this? Is it wrong to take this? And I ended up deciding, I'm like, no, like, you have it, you can do it. He had the best surgeons in the country do all of his surgeries. His wife was in her prime, in the top 10 most powerful women in the world. So it was a very prominent family. His surgeons were like, why are you hiring this little kid? Because I was 25. So like, you could have anybody in the world. But we kind of just hit it off because I was interviewed for the job. I was able to manipulate everything from his diet. I did his therapy every single day. They had a chef, so I had an anti-inflammatory meal. I put a hyperbaric chamber in his house. I basically did every single thing possible. And within 3 months, they told me 6 months they could stand. After 3 months, he was walking without a crutch or a cane. And then month 4, he hiked Machu Picchu. And they're like, I kind of got the recognition of who are you and how did you do that? Because we told you 6 months till he could stand. And I really, between those 2 networks, between that pro athlete and that family, word spread really fast. And within 3 months, I had a wait list in my practice. And I thought I was going to just do sports medicine. But what I noticed was like, why am I going to just treat the healthiest bodies in the world on a regular basis when the average person's far more sick and a lot more pain? So I opened up my practice to corporate level executives and people in the music and film industry, which I was able to have that network because of those 2 success stories. And then, by the end, before Remedy Place opened, I had a 6-month wait list to be seen. But through that time, some of my patients then became my mentors, and they kept having me think outside the box because, these brilliant business-minded people were always like, all right, now what's next? Like, what are you doing? And then I started getting crazy job offers at the end of my first year in practice. And they were like, I want you to come on and be a medical director of these new med spas and all these fancy things that were opening up. And at the end of the day, they had places that they were being built, but they didn't have the ideas. And I had my business plan for Remedy Place. And I was like, I'm not giving my dream away, which was at that time was hard because the salaries that they were offering, I was like, whoa, like I should be taking this. But I was like, I'm not going to build someone else's dream when I already have like the right idea. So at that point, and then in combination with one of my patients, they're like, you know, you're charging a lot of money per hour. You're like fulfilling yourself with like helping people, but how are you going to change healthcare? Because my goal is to change healthcare. They're like, how are you going to change healthcare seeing one patient at a time? And I was like, you can't do that. So then I really started reopening Remedy Place. But at that time, I brought that business plan back out, started implementing and changing things and working on it at that point. But then I also found out that I was like, okay, like if I'm not opening Remedy Place yet, because I don't have the means to do so, how do I start making impact care? So I got into education, started doing corporate speaking, spoke for companies like Delta. I mean, even like Delta, I created a healthy travel guide for their Dreamforce conference, which was like 170,000 people. I'm like, wow, 1 hour of my time reached 170,000 people. And then I started doing it for all these corporations. Like, wow, like education is the thing that I think is missing most, and the thing that's most beneficial, because I can't make someone healthy. I mean, only you can make you healthy. It's our job to be there to guide them, to facilitate things, speed things up. But at the end of the day, your health's in your control. You know, no one can make you healthy. So the education became a big part. Then I started doing retreats because I started blending the worlds of like the chiropractic with all the other things I was seeing that worked, and started doing retreats all over the world, which was fun. And then I think my patients too, is like, after the first year, I had patients in Singapore, I had patients in London, I had patients in Germany. I started getting these referrals because, you know, LA is a hub.
Oh, yeah.
And so many people would come in and out. And then once you fix somebody or like figure something out that they didn't know, like, okay, like I can't keep flying to LA, so we're going to fly you here and you're going to come here. And it's been like every day I woke up pinching myself, like, how can this get any better? And it just got better and better and better. But long story short, it was a long answer, but I used those 5 years as clinical evidence to build the network, to figure out how to build something as big as this is, and perfectly curate all like the missing pieces as I started gaining more and more experience. And then it took about a year to find the lease, and then a year to build it out and actually open. So long process.
Yeah.